What 5 days of fasting does to your body day by day. I did a video probably a month or two ago on a 5-day sardine fast. There's a huge difference between that and what I'm going to show you, because when you're consuming any type of protein while you're doing a fast, you are not going to get the true cleaning that you could get if you didn't have any protein. You're not going to be consuming any food, okay? You're going to be drinking water. You can have coffee. You can have tea. But a really big mistake that people make when they do prolonged fasting is they do not consume enough sea salt, okay? And a lot of times they don't even consume any electrolytes, and they get into trouble. I'm going to be talking about that. And when I talk about cleaning, I'm going to talk about maybe a new word that you've never heard before, autophagy. Autophagy is self-cleaning, your body's way of recycling the junk in the body that creates illness and chronic disease, and especially in shortening your life. So this is all about longevity. I want to introduce you to a second word, mTOR. When you increase mTOR, you send a message in the body that says build. So you're building muscles. When you lower mTOR, you are doing the opposite. You're cleaning the body. And so what we want to do in this 5-day fast is lower mTOR, okay? And this means that we have to avoid protein, we have to avoid intense exercise, and we have to avoid carbs and raising insulin. We're going to be doing the opposite. We're going to be lowering insulin because we're not going to be eating anything. We're not going to be doing any type of an intense exercise routine. Definitely walking, but you don't want to do weight training or any type of high intensity interval training while you do this, because that's going to increase mTOR and shut down the whole goal of this program, which is cleaning. And so when you start fasting and you eat nothing and you're drinking water, what's going to happen is you're going to get your energy from stored glucose in the liver. That's called glycogen. And a lot of it's attached to water. So you're going to dump a lot of glycogen and a lot of water. And what's connected to that is minerals too. And because you're not consuming anything, and especially not any carbs, your insulin is going to drop way down. And that message to the kidney is dump excess sodium. You have to realize that when a person's on a high carb diet, they're going to be holding a tremendous amount of sodium and water. Well, you're going to dump all that probably the first and second day. So you really need to make sure you have at least 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of high quality sea salt spread out through each day. And I would recommend Himalayan sea salt or something that's very, very high quality, because if you don't consume enough sodium, you're not going to hold enough fluid in your body, so your blood volume is going to go down. And by day 2, you're going to be dizzy. I know a lot of people complain about that. They feel like, I'm on a fast. Second day, I'm feeling dizzy, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling fatigue. They call it the keto flu. They feel kind of run down. That is purely low salt. Also, when you get into day 3 and 4 and 5, potassium is going to be really important as well. But you really need to prevent the keto flu and the dizziness by consuming enough sea salt and water. Now, the most difficult part of this whole 5-day fasting is day 2. This is when people give up because it becomes very difficult. It takes a couple days to convert your cellular machinery into running on fat fuel, okay? And we call that ketones. So it does take a couple days. And so if it doesn't go smoothly, you're going to be hungry. You're going to feel kind of tired. Add more sea salt. Now, for some people that have a rough time, I would recommend even adding a tablespoon of MCT oil. This is not going to bump you out of that ketosis. What your brain's going to do, it's going to pick up these ketones from your blood and it's going to start running on them as fuel, so it can help you. The other really important thing to know is if your sodium is too low, guess what's going to increase? Cortisol. So that's going to affect your sleep. You're going to go to sleep and you're like, wow, I'm not tired. I'm feeling kind of nervous. I have anxiety. Both adrenaline and cortisol go up if you don't have enough salt. And this is why for a lot of people that have insomnia, I just say, well, add more salt to the day and you probably are going to sleep a lot better. And this also explains why a lot of people, including myself, used to crave a lot of salty snacks late at night, because we needed that salt to lower the cortisol. It almost relaxes us when we have more salt. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high-quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information. Day 3 is when things start to feel a lot better, because this is when autophagy kicks in. So you're going to notice you're going to have mental clarity because your brain is going to get fuel from your own fat. It's breaking down your own fat finally and turning it into ketones, which your brain loves. So mental clarity is going to be something you're going to notice. Also, you're going to notice like your hunger is going away. Like you're not eating anything, but your appetite is not there. Why? Because you are eating your own fat. And day 3, we have mental clarity. We have no hunger. We also have autophagy in the brain, making new mitochondria in the brain. And if you're a little older and you have a history of doing a lot of carbs or you're pre-diabetic, whatever, you are going to really like what's going to happen, because at the heart of so many cognitive problems in our brain, it is damaged mitochondria. And now we have a chance to fix those by not eating. It's pretty wild. The other thing that's going to happen is you're going to start to stimulate more stem cells. Stem cells are like cells that don't really have a purpose. They're just sitting there. So whatever the body needs them to turn into, it'll use them for that. At this point, I'm going to highly recommend that you include other electrolytes, especially magnesium. I would recommend magnesium glycinate before going to bed at night. And not to mention maybe some electrolyte powder with high magnesium as well. If it's the summertime, get more sun during the day to get your vitamin D. If it's the wintertime, take vitamin D. This is another vitamin that a lot of people are deficient in. And so if you're going into this fasting period without vitamin D, you might notice your lower back being more achy or more inflammation. But I will say, just the fact that you're doing fasting, your inflammation should start dramatically dropping. Now we're at day 4, more of the same, more autophagy, more deep cleaning. I didn't mention this, but part of autophagy is also getting rid of pathogens. So if you had some past infections where there are microbes that have been dormant, there's certain microbes like the Epstein-Barr virus or certain herpes viruses, there's been data to show that that can be eliminated with autophagy through fasting. So we have this chance of not just cleaning the intracellular debris of damaged proteins, but also the old pathogens that are sitting there, waiting there to kind of come out when you're stressed. On day 4, you're going to notice positive mood changes. So you're going to just feel happy. You're going to feel better. If your mood was lower here, it's going to be a lot higher here. It's just going to bring you up. So we have improvement in cognitive function, mental clarity, focus, concentration, and memory, and then mood improvements on day 4, as well as a major drop in inflammation. If you had stiffness going into this, you're going to have a lot less inflammation. The other cool thing that happens on day 4 is the liver fat and visceral fat start to dramatically go down. You're going to notice your midsection becoming smaller, and so your clothes are a lot looser because the fat on the liver is being used up as energy. And also a lot of the fat that surrounds the organs is also being used as fuel. All right, now let's talk about day 5. You're going to have this massive growth hormone spike. Growth hormone is anti-aging. It protects your muscles. It helps your skin look good. And you're going to have this massive spike of growth hormone, sometimes up to 5 times what you had going into this. So it's going to protect your muscle and create a lot of other great benefits. All right, the other thing that happens is major fat loss, but there's going to be additional weight loss of water loss. So if you combine the water loss and the fat loss, I've seen a range anywhere between a 5-pound loss up to a 10 to 12-pound loss in the first week. The real big benefit of doing this fast is when you come off the fast and doing this correctly. If you do it incorrectly, you can kind of lose the benefits that you just achieved. And also it could be dangerous if you start consuming a lot of carbohydrates or even a heavy protein when you come off this fast. And so it's really important to transition off this 5-day fast slowly, okay, and gradually. So you would start doing a little bit of bone broth, maybe 2 cups of bone broth, okay? Maybe some cooked or fermented veggies. That's it. I would recommend doing 1 to 1.5 teaspoons of sea salt spread out through the day. Put some in some water and dissolve it and drink that. Cod liver oil is a good thing to take too for your omega-3 fatty acids. And cod liver oil not just gives you the omega-3 fatty acids, but it gives you vitamin D as well. I also wanted to remind you of this exercise. Do not do high-intensity exercise or heavy weight training because we want to create a healing, a cleaning, autophagy, and we don't want to activate mTOR. If you're pregnant, if you have diabetes, you have some other disease, you need to check with your doctor before doing this. For some people who've never done a 5-day fast, I suggest you start with intermittent fasting for a while. Maybe do a 2-day fast, try that, and then do a 3-day fast, and then eventually a 5-day fast. Now, that being said, you don't want to do this forever, right? We're just trying to clean the body, but then you want to flip to building the body because we want to increase mTOR after you do this, not right after, but maybe some days later. So then you want high quality protein. You want to do intense exercise, but you don't want to do a lot of refined sugars and carbs. And so you want to do a combination of cleaning and building. So a lot of people ask me, what supplements do I recommend? Now, of course, I'm not biased of my own high quality supplement line, but if you go to Amazon and type Dr. Berg supplements, you'll find more information.